All right, welcome back to Editing with Eden. I'm so excited because I came out of retirement for the first time in like a year and I second shot a wedding for the incredible Deirdre Alston. And it was so fun to shoot again and to just be able to be a second shooter and to like focus on storytelling and actually like my craft rather than having the stress and pressure of a wedding day that you have as a primary shooter. So I'm super excited to take you guys through this gallery today. We are going to be using the Eden Strader True to Color presets, primarily the creamy, and I'm so excited to walk you through it. So this is the gorgeous house that the bride's family owned, and it was so amazing because her mom had gotten married like in the 90s at this house, and so we recreated a bunch of photos, and it was just like the most beautiful house that was clearly full of so much history and like family legacy, and it just set this beautiful tone to the day when we were getting started because I just felt like we were already so enveloped in this family story and who they were as people before even like meeting the couple together. Like, I don't know. It was just so phenomenal. And as you can see, the house was amazing. It had so much character. So this is where we started with the first dress shot. And I just put creamy on here and I took the contrast out, changed the white balance a little bit, but that's really it. And that's it for the first for the dress shot. I shot this one here through this gorgeous mirror that was to the right. So let's go ahead and put creamy on it. I can't decide if I want this one in black and white for Le Drama or not. I think we are going to go black and white on this one. Let's see. I think we're going to go low contrast black and white. And I think I'm actually going to keep it pretty underexposed. Yum, 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 yum. Let's see what clean looks like. Ooh, I think I might like clean even more. And I'm actually going to crop the window out of this so that the dress is just the primary focus. And it's kind of haunting, but I love her. All right, on to the next, some detail photos. Let's go ahead and just put creamy on there. She might be a little too cool. So let's go ahead and put creamy blue hour, less contrast since it was in a heavy shade. Let's just go ahead and raise the exposure here, straighten out those horizon lines. There's a million sirens going on in New York City if you can hear those. Here's another just like detail shot I got. Let's go ahead and start with creamy harsh light. Is probably going to be like a good one here. Let's go ahead and just click her on one click. Perfect. Let's go ahead and raise the exposure. There we go. That's going to be it for that detail shot. Let's move on to this one. This one's going to be fun because it's the bride getting ready next to her mom. She's getting ready in her mom's childhood bedroom, which is super cool. And obviously, we could do something easy, right? Like put low contrast black and white on here, and it would be beautiful. And we could just literally raise the exposure. But I want to show you guys like how the presets can work in these lighting situations and how I personally would edit them. So I'm actually going to meter based off the mom. So let's go ahead and get that going right here. And then I'm actually going to warm up the image. Let's start first by having the bride properly. Whoa. The way that just didn't want to update. Let's get the bride properly exposed and like set with the temperature. I'm actually just going to use the dropper because she is not wanting to go. Let's grab this dropper, target neutral. Okay, that looks okay. We'll start here. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this tool, and then I am going to do the linear gradient, and I'm going to just go ahead and select the mom side here, and I'm going to just cool that down significantly. Obviously, that went so green, so now we're going to counteract, and we're just going to play around with this for a second. I want to make sure that we don't make the mom too cool, but also not too magenta. As you guys know, white balance is the finest of lines and it can be crossed very quickly. So let's go ahead and raise exposure a little here. I'm going to go ahead and actually grab this. Let's scoot it this way a little bit more because that door doesn't necessarily need to be that cool. Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's brighten the image overall. And I'm actually, the mom is still looking a bit brighter than the bride. So let's go ahead. Let's create a new mask. We're going to do a linear gradient. Do the same thing here. Just raise the exposure on this side. Perfect. And then I'm actually going to come down to my HSL sliders. Let's go ahead and just take the orange over the out of the images overall. I'm going to go ahead. I don't usually take out blue, but we're going to here. Let's actually bring a little bit more of that orange back in. And then let's see if we want the yellows or no. We do want a little bit of yellow. So now we've taken this image from here to here. And again, this is an image that I would love to put in black and white. Okay, up next we have this gorgeous image of the bride getting ready, Olivia, through one of the mirrors on the wall. I'm just going to go ahead and clone stamp out that frame up top first and foremost because there's no reason for it to be there. I'm going to crop this in a little bit tighter. And then I personally probably would put this image in black and white just because I think it's so gorgeous, but we'll go ahead and do this one in color and the next one in black and white. So we're going to apply the creamy preset here. We're going to raise exposure. And to be honest, that's probably where I'm going to leave that. Perfect. I'm going to bring down the contrast, I think, here just because I don't love the contrast on that frame. And I love this image being a little bit foggier. Then we'll come over here where it is just the bride in the frame. Let's go ahead and crop this in. I want just this mirror to be the entire focus of the frame. Perfect. Again, we could just slap creamy on here. This is what it would look like. Let's go ahead and raise exposure, apply creamy. That went up way too high. Let's put this here. But I'm actually going to put this one in black and white. So we would either have the clean black and white, which is a little bit punchier. We could even lower that exposure. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Delish. Let's put clean black and white on it. See what the lower contrast looks like. I'm loving the lower contrast lately. So we're going to stick with her. All right, let's come on next. We've got this image with crazy light while Olivia put on her shoes. She was in a bit of cleaner light for the windows, and everything else was lit by a lamp. So let's go ahead and get exposure set. Let's go ahead and bring temperature down. Let's get her properly set. And then I would come down here to the orange. Let's drain a little bit of that. And then what I personally would do is do the linear gradient again and just kind of take it on this corner. And then let's just cool that down just a hair, just so it's not so distracting. Perfect. There we go. We went from here to here. Okay, here's Olivia getting ready in the bathroom. I'm actually going to, for the sake of editing this, I actually love the idea of this just being like this. Let's bring that in a little bit more. I don't want any of that wall. I'm going to bring this down a little. Perfect. So I'm going to edit this in black and white or in color, but I honestly probably an image like this will be a lot more powerful in black and white. But let me show you how I would edit it with the creamy preset regardless. We're just going to take up this tint so it's a little bit pinker. Ooh, not too pink. Not the most pink thing we've ever seen in our lives. And then you would come here, do the linear gradient again, warm this up since that was in a bit more even lighting. There we go. Apparently we're going to warm her up all the way. And so we can have the image like this, but personally, I would put this image in black and white as to not detract from how like powerful it is with the veil. That is the clean black and white. Again, though, I'm loving the low contrast black and white lately, so I'm going to put that on there. All right, now we have this gorgeous image of Olivia by the window. Let's go ahead and apply the creamy preset. I'm probably going to bring down the contrast just to 0 here since there's already so much contrast from that harsh light coming in through the window. Let's go ahead and raise exposure. And I'm going to be honest, I'm probably just going to leave her right here. If we wanted a little bit more detail in like the shadows though, what I personally would do is bring down the highlights and then bring the exposure up a little bit right there. So that is where we would leave that image. It's gone from here to here. All right, I've been loving shooting through garbage lately. This was just like a clear little piece of plastic that I put over my lens, and it's really different from my normal style, but I feel like it just adds this really ethereal, beautiful quality. So I'm gonna go actually and apply Blue Hour Less Contrast since it kind of gave it a little bit of a cooler, greener tone when shooting through the film. And then I'm gonna raise the tint a little bit here. And for this one, I would maybe, let's see what shadows look like brought up. Maybe a little bit there, but honestly, that's where I'd leave that image. I love how like ethereal it is. It also would be gorgeous with a little bit of black and white over it. All right, if you know me, you know I love harsh light more than anything in the world. So Olivia stood up. She was in this little beam, and I was like, please don't move a single muscle. We have to shoot this. So we're going to go ahead and apply creamy harsh light. And as you guys can see, the harsh light preset really brings down your highlights. And so we're going to have to raise this exposure quite a bit. I actually love the idea of Olivia being really the only thing we see though. So I'm going to bump those highlights back up to 0. bring this down. And then what I personally would do would be to take the healing brush, paint over those windows since they're a little distracting. They're like quite a bright white light in the corner. And we're just going to clone those out. We're going to clone this out. And I like the stripe on the ground, but we're going to remove this one. I kind of like the idea of just being able to see that one singular beam. So that's what that looks like. This is also an image that I would love to put in black and white. The low contrast clean black and white, again, gorgeous. We're just going to bump those highlights up to 0. All right, we have this gorgeous image, and I'm obsessed with this because, again, the bride's mom got married here. It's a grandparents' property, I believe, and so we have all 3 of them in this shot, just kind of arranging things. Grandma was rearranging this candle, and it made my heart just soar. So because we've kind of got some funky light going on, I'm going to click on, let's do creamy split light. So split light is the preset I suggest using if like someone's in completely different lighting than someone else within the frame. This is probably a bit too drastic for me. So I'm going to bring down the blacks here so that we retain that contrast and up the highlights just a hair and then bring down contrast just a step or two. And then I'm going to cool down the image a little bit overall. And let's maybe even just bring the contrast down one more stop. Perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. We could even just bring down the highlights a stop, up the exposure a little bit. And so we've taken the image from this to this. This was the bride getting ready as we were leaving to go to the ceremony location. So let's go ahead and straighten that out. And then I'm just going to plop on creamy. Let's actually do creamy blue hour less contrast so that the outside stays the tone that I want it to. And then I'm going to expose for the outdoors. I'm going to lower this contrast and then raise the tint a little. Is pulling pretty green and pretty warm. So let's go ahead and lower that temperature just a hair. Perfect. So we've taken the image from this to this. All right, this is another example of an image that I took with the cellophane thing over it. So let's go ahead and put creamy on it really quick, see what that looks like. Let's even try creamy blue hour, less contrast, because I like the idea of keeping the warmth in this image. I don't want it to look too cool. Let's go ahead and raise shadows. I typically like to keep my shadows kind of at 0, but where this is, let's do blacks raised. Where this is like an image that I wanted to have a bit more of an ethereal feel, I'm fine kind of like raising the blacks all the way. Let's raise the temperature just a little. I want this warmer. And then I'm going to come down here, lower the blue luminance, up the blue saturation a little, and then I'm also going to do a linear gradient just because right here for some reason is looking a little darker, and then we're just going to raise the exposure. No, I don't like that. We're going to come back down. Let's do shadows all the way up just to kind of like maybe even exposure up a stop or two, and then we'll just pull that out to kind of make it a little bit smoother. All right, I love that. I'm actually, because this would be like a transitional image in a gallery, I feel no type of way about just cropping her in, making an extreme landscape photo. Ugh, that's a gorgeous like transitional image. Okay, now let's move on to the sweetest groom reaction you'll ever see in your entire life. Jeremy was an absolute sweetheart. This is his reaction to seeing Olivia walking down the aisle. I die. Let's go ahead and do creamy split light, which again, this is where it saves these situations because this ceremony was midday. It was by the water, as you guys saw. So I am going to bring down the blacks a hair because we kind of have the ability for that here. It wasn't too uneven. So we're going to do that. That's all we needed. We're going to copy that, come here, paste, there she blows. Can you believe it? That is my favorite thing about the split light preset. Here's another example of where split light will save your life. Let's go ahead and apply creamy split light. Perfect. There she is. We're just going to raise that exposure, straighten her out a bit. And for here, because we've kind of got the sky looking a little funky, we're going to go ahead and put in a linear gradient. We're going to up the shadows. And let's go ahead and drag her out a little so it's a little less extreme. Perfect. We're good to go. And that was, just the split light preset on there. Obsessed. Let's go ahead and move here. Let's do the split light preset again. Paste. There it is. Let's go ahead and lower that exposure a little. I'm also just going to warm this image up just a hair. Perfect. We could even come in here, raise those blocks just a stop. And there she is. Now we have all the details both in the highlights and the shadows, which is my favorite thing about that preset. All right, here is the reception space. Let's go ahead and put blue hour less contrast because I want to make sure that we're keeping a lot of the warmth. Alrighty, that looks crazy. Let's go ahead and raise the blacks a little and the shadows, and then I'm going to raise the exposure just to stop. I'm going to lower the white balance just a little bit, and there we go. She's gone from this to this. We have the ceiling. Let's go ahead and just put creamy on there. One click. Let's go ahead and cool her down a little bit. Raise that exposure. Boom. Bada bing. Done. On to the detail shots. Let's go ahead and put creamy here. I'm going to already just start to like cool down the temperature of this. And then raise the tint maybe a stop just because we were in the tent. So we had both the sun and the grass bouncing, aka everyone's dream. We're going to raise that exposure. Let's go down one. We've gone from here to here. We love to see it. Took a photo of the sky because pretty. That's it. That's the whole story. We're going to go ahead and apply creamy preset here. We're going to raise the exposure a little since it's going to make it a little contrasty. Perfect. There to there. Now we have this first dance photo. Let's go ahead and put creamy on this. As you can tell already, it is going to be way too warm. So we're going to cool her down a little bit. And then let's go ahead and get the exposure where we need it to be. I'm going to bring down the highlights and get the contrast down to 0 since it is so contrasty. Let's go ahead and lower that tint one more time. And then I'm actually going to raise the blacks here a little to get a little bit more of that detail, maybe even the shadows a stop, and then up that contrast once since we brought the blacks up. And then we're just going to straighten her out, bring this up here. Perfect. We've gone from this to this. This is another example of me shooting through the garbage, which a guest called me on, which was really so sweet. He made sure to tell me I was really professional for using trash. That's a joke. He was kind of sassy about it, but whatever. I'm convinced he would change his mind if he saw these. So let's apply creamy. Let's change the temperature a little bit. Let's go ahead and raise the tint a stop. It's still looking a little too warm for my taste. Let's cool her down. Perfect. Again, I want these a little bit more ethereal. Let's copy that, move on to this next one. You guys know I photographed these flowers for way too long with my garbage. You love to see it. All right, let's go ahead and just apply creamy again. Obviously, this is when the sun was really intense and really warm on everything. So we're going to need to cool this down significantly and raise the tint significantly since, again, it was bouncing off of the grass. We're going to lower this contrast quite a bit as well. And then let's go ahead and raise this exposure. Beautiful. We round from here to here. Now we went out for portraits at blue hour. So we're going to use a lot of blue hour, less contrast, which is my personal favorite to usually use at blue hour, unless we're working with like a very contrasty light. So let's go ahead and fix the exposure here. Now that creamy has been applied. So we've gone from here to here. We've got Jeremy and Olivia looking gorgeous. Let's apply blue hour less contrast here as well. Perfect. And by perfect, I mean not way too underexposed. Let's go ahead and raise that a bit. Perfect. For real. There we go. We've taken it from here to here. We've got this slow shutter image, which I overexposed slightly. So we've got that preset on there now, and I would probably either drag it down, or I love black and white on images like this. And then obviously we would just crop the videographer out of there. Another slow shutter. Let's go ahead and do this one with creamy blue hour so that you guys can see what this looks like in color at this time of night. All right, pretty warm out the gate, so we're just going to raise this a little. And if you didn't want to sacrifice this sunset, you could just bring the blacks up, and that would obviously lower the contrast quite a bit, but still looks stunning. Same thing here. We're going to do creamy blue hour less contrast, and I am actually going to exclusively raise the blacks because I don't really want to lose that sunset. I'm going to raise it just a hair. Let's go ahead and straighten this out because I was running like a loon. And then let's see what it looks like. Just cool down a hair. Ooh, I love it a bit more blue. Let's go ahead and raise the tint a little. I am never going to object to a little bit more magenta. So we've taken it from here to here. Go ahead and go back. We'll copy these settings. And then we'll come here, paste. Obsessed with that. I'm just going to make the tint 5 because Jeremy's face is looking a little too pink for my taste. And then I personally would raise the exposure on this one. We have Olivia looking just absolutely ethereal and beautiful. Let's go ahead and paste what we just did with the creamy blue hour. Perfect. Again, I'm going to take this tint just down to 5. And then let's go ahead, get this horizon line out of here. Beautiful. So we've taken it from here to here. If you wanted something a bit more punchy too, this is what it would look like with creamy. Let's say that you weren't too concerned about the sunset. You could obviously raise the white balance a little. So that's another option. Same thing here. Let's just go ahead and paste what we did with creamy blue hour, less contrast. And I'm just going to raise this exposure a little, but honestly, I wouldn't object to this as well. And I would just personally lower the contrast so it just had like a very cinematic feel to it. Let's straighten that horizon line. Stunning. Low contrast black and white. Don't mind if I do. And I would just probably raise the shadows. And then so it didn't look too HDR, I should just come down here, lower that clarity, lower that texture. I'm obsessed with that in black and white. Oh my God. Another image, pretty similar. So we'll just go ahead and paste here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the tint down to 0 just because we're starting to get to that point of blue hour where things just look really red. And let's bring exposure right about there. Perfect. All right, as you guys can see here, my ISO was super high, my shutter speed was super low, my f-stop was super low because it was getting dark, but we had to get this photo of the dog because obviously, look at that dog's face. I I cannot. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna apply creamy blue hour, less contrast, but as you can see, this was pulling so pink straight out the gate. That looks like my worst nightmare. So let's go ahead and pick a target neutral, see what it can do for us. Okay, cool. Still looks like shit. Great. Let's go ahead and cool this down. The temperature dropper will not be helping us here. It said absolutely not. All right, let's keep cooling it down. I think it actually did a pretty good job with the tint though. Let's go ahead and get the exposure where we would want it to be. I cannot. Okay, this honestly, I feel good about this one. This feels good. So we've taken it from here to here. So obviously the tint is way lower than I would have it on my normal images, but given how pink it was naturally, it's perfect. All right, we've got a fun little dance shot here. And so this is when I usually start bringing in the creamy reception preset because it has more matte blacks. And so it's just really fun for reception images to kind of give it a little bit more punch. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. I'm going to raise the tint because for some reason it does look a little green. Let's lower the temperature just a hair here. And then I'm just going to raise the exposure so it kind of has like that overexposed flash look. Perfect. Let's go ahead and move on here. My idols. Let's go ahead and do creamy reception once again. And let me get the exposure where I would want it. So let me show you the difference between these two. So we have creamy and then we have creamy reception. And as you can see, it just kind of mats out the blacks a little. So I personally really like this for like direct flash looks at the reception because it just feels like a bit more like a disposable. All right, we have just like this fun shot of someone taking off their shoes. So we're going to do creamy reception again once more. And then let's go ahead and raise that exposure because as you guys have seen, I tend to underexpose just a little, but I shoot with Nikon 750s. They can handle it and they do an amazing job. We're just going to cool this down a little because it's looking a little warm. And get this exactly where I want it. Boom. We love to see it. Let's move on here. They had a cigar bar outside and I actually decided I wanted to shoot some of it with ambient light because it was just so cool and moody looking. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the highlights up and the contrast low because I know these are just going to be like really contrasted images. Let's go ahead and get the temperature set a little bit more evenly because even though I do want these to have like a warm feel since they were outside smoking, I still want it to feel pretty true to life. I'm actually going to go ahead and bring the highlights up quite a bit and then bring that exposure down because I just love the idea of these being super contrasty. Oh, yum. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one of the groom Jeremy. We're going to go ahead and paste. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and just bring down this exposure one more time. And this is like a good opportunity, right? Where you could like bring the brush in and just brush that smoke right here and then just bring highlights like all the way up. Same with whites even, just so that looks super, super contrasty. I got his hand a little too much though. So let's go ahead and erase that right there. And then God bless this girl in the corner, but she's got to go because the exposure is making her look a little spooky. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the linear gradient. I'm going to bring down highlights all the way. And I'm going to bring down whites all the way. And she'll disappear a little. Obviously, if we raise the exposure to like here, oh, it's not even a girl. It's a guy. It's a friend. Anywho, sorry, pal. We're going to bring that back down. There we go. So we've taken it from here to here. All right, that is everything. If you want to grab presets of your own so you can edit 40 images in a couple minutes and have the easiest one-click time, the link is in my bio as always, and I'll see you guys next time for Editing with Eden.